Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. So for today's video I thought, seeing as we're in the middle of the year and I've seen a lot of people do like mid-year book tags, loads of different videos, and a friend of mine actually sent me a TikTok of someone doing their top 5 books of the year so far and their least favourite 5 books of the year so far, and I thought what a good idea, because I think I read 55 books so far, which is going well. My aim for the year is 100, so I feel like we're doing good. But let me tell you, it's been difficult to firstly pick my top 5 and pick my least favourite 5. So I think we're going to go through, I think we'll do the top 5 first, because they're the ones I actually have physical copies of. I've come to realise I don't have physical copies of any of my least favourite 5, which to be honest is probably a good thing. I feel like if they are in the bottom 5 out of the 55 I've read this year, I probably don't need a physical copy of them. I had a physical copy of one of them and I believe I gave that to charity because I was like, that does not need to be on my bookshelf. So let's get into the video. So the first book is one I did read in a reading vlog, and it was actually my first 6-star of the read, and that is The Best Worst Thing by Lauren Oakey. This one is like a lit fic / romance, very much more lit fic than it is romance, and I thought this was so well done. Like, Lauren Oakey's writing in this book specifically, I definitely want to reread this. It's one of my favourite books of all time, and if you're unsure what it's about, you're basically following a girl called Nicole, and she has a husband called Gabe. Basically, when you start the book, have been trying to get pregnant for a while. She's suffered with quite bad infertility. She's got a podcast that she talks about it on, and at the very start of the book you find out they've just done their final round of IVF and they're not sure it's going to work. Like, it's very low chance that it's ever going to happen, and when right after that sort of happens, she finds out that he's been having an affair with their dog walker. So everything kind of gets thrown into turmoil, and then it finds out that she actually is pregnant, and lo and behold, then this old colleague of hers comes back in who basically was obsessed with her and loved her throughout her whole career, like years ago, and they haven't seen each other for a while, and they end up sort of coming back into each other's life. But oh my god, it is such an incredible book, and as you can tell I've tabbed quite a lot. I'll see if I can find a quote. So this is literally at the very start when she finds out about the affair, because it does happen literally on page 18. So if you want a fast-paced book, this is a great one. And it says, "It was strange, an out-of-body experience, really. Watching the man she'd loved since she was 22 scrape her insides out with his bare hands, but he was a natural. He just kept talking and pacing and pleading and lying until there was nothing left, until he'd gutted her." There's just so many. It says, "Nicole didn't know what was real, not anymore, but she knew those memories. She had lived them. They had lived them together, and yet somehow they amounted to nothing. Somehow she was just another clueless wife." But you do also get flashbacks to like when her and Gabe did work together and their relationship, which I feel like really added so much depth, because obviously you're starting the story after they've been colleagues. She's married to someone else. She's been going for IVF treatment. It's very different to what was going on back then. So having the 4 years ago chapters where you can see her and Gabe and how besotted with her he was, and just, it's like you're reading it and you're thinking, how did you not how did you not end up with this guy? How did you not see how obsessed he was with you, how incredible he was? But it is such a fun journey. There's so many good quotes in here. Also, there's one of my favourite ever scenes in any book, probably. This is like one of my favourite scenes of all time, and she basically, when she used to work with him, used to recommend him books all the time, and she's recommended her husband books previously when they were together, and he kind of was just like, yeah, I'll read it. Never got around to reading it. And when Gabe and her reconnect, she ends up stumbling across a massive box full to the brim of books, and they're all of the books that she recommended him, and he read all of them. Like, he'd read all of them, and oh guys, this is just such a fun, incredible read. So I highly recommend, because I think I read this within like a day or so. I literally flew through it. Sorry, I just had to put my hair up because it was like overstimulating me. Don't know if anyone else gets like that, but it was annoying me on the back of my neck. So moving on, the next book in the top 5 of the year is one that I feel like has to be here. And to be honest, this is the 3rd book in a trilogy. All 3 books, I would say, are in the top, but this one is my favourite so far, and that is Morningstar by Piers Brown. This is the 3rd book in the Red Rising trilogy, but it's a 3rd book in the Red Rising trilogy, but then there's another trilogy that comes after it, and it's like interconnected, I believe. But this was incredible. I'm not going to speak too much about this book because obviously being the third book, it would be massively spoiler heavy if I told you anything, but all I will say is if you're into sci-fi, dystopian, fantasy vibes, you want an incredible world, you get so drawn in with these characters. You follow only Darrow's point of view throughout this, and there's multiple characters you meet along the way, but even though you're only in his point of view, the love you will feel and form for all of these characters is insane. And it is just, honestly, it's so good. Like, I cannot recommend it enough. I also really highly recommend the audiobooks and the graphic audio, to be specific, because that takes this whole series literally to another level. And if you're unsure what it's about, you're basically following Darrow, who is a red in this society. They rank people by colour, and he gets taken in by this rebellion group, and they basically decide to turn him into a gold, which is like the top of the hierarchy, to go and like infiltrate and bring the hierarchy down from the inside. That's a very light overview, but honestly, if you've not read this series, I put this off for so long. I'd heard so many things, and then one day I was like, do you know what, I'm going to start it, and I am so glad I did, because this has been such a ride. I'm so excited to get into the next book of this series. I'm nervous, I'm excited, but yeah, the end of this book had me going through like the 5 stages of grief in every single way possible. So the next one I don't yet have a copy of because I'm waiting for my Fairy Loot version of it to arrive, but that is Daggermouth by H.M. Wolf. Oh my god, I feel like everyone's heard about this one. Everyone loves it. It is one of the best dystopians I've read. I'm so excited to read the next one. I don't know when it comes out, but it was just so incredible. I was hooked from the start. It's so fast paced. I feel like it did a great job of building up the world, the characters. And if you're unsure what it's about, I'm actually going to read a little bit of the synopsis, because I feel like I need to do it a little bit of justice, and I won't be able to do that based on my own memory of it. So first thing you'll learn in Newfound Haven is that mercy doesn't exist. The second thing is that from the highest glass atrium in the heart of the windowless slums of the Boundary, the Vaira are always watching. The last lesson is the hardest, but you must remember it. Love outside of your ring is a death sentence. The city is carved into rings of privilege and poverty, ruled by the masked elite who will do whatever it takes to hold on to power. Obedience is demanded, rebellion is crushed. Grayson Cyril has spent his life caught between two worlds. Publicly, he is the flawless heir to the presidency. Privately, he's entangled in secrets that could topple the regime. But when he's forced into a political marriage meant to bind him tighter to the government's brutal laws, he finds himself shackled to a bride as lethal as she is unwilling. Shadir Akil is a mercenary raised to kill, not to wed. Yet when her bullet misses its mark, survival leaves her tied to the very man she was sent to eliminate. Guys, if you like enemies to lovers, I promise you that is enemies to lovers. Like, that is enemies to lovers. There's one scene in particular that rings a bell in my mind, and it's they're having like a bit of a standoff, and I can't remember exactly how it went down, but they both like pointing their guns at each other, and he's like, oh, if you shoot me, it's only going to make me want to fuck you. And she's like, what does she say back to that? I can't remember, but she's basically saying like, oh, like, I will shoot you, and then they both end up like shooting each other. Like, it is enemies to lovers. It's so fun, it's so fast paced, you will fly through it, and you'll probably be as obsessed as I am by the end. So the next book is another, I feel like it's a TikTok classic, and that is The Favourites by Lane Fargo. I read this, I can't remember when I read it, sometime earlier this year, and this is basically following 2 ice skaters who are Olympic champions, and you get the past timeline of them training together and how they kind of like cross paths, and then you also get them, I think it's like 10 years later, and all of the interviewees' point of views, and like everyone's kind of like the public perception of them outside of the limelight, and it is so good. If you liked Daisy Jones and the Six, this is perfect for you, because the interview part of it makes you feel so connected, and makes you feel like you're in the world with them, and like you're part of it, and you're watching the Olympics with them. It also made me gain a massive obsession for ice skating, so this one is definitely one to keep on your radar if you've not yet read it. So the 5th and final book on the top 5 for this year is The Dressage Heir. I was really iffy to put this on there because this wasn't actually 5-star for me. I think this was like a 4.5, but the more I think about it, the more I'm so excited to read the next one. I feel like it's such a strong fantasy, and I literally just loved it so much. So I thought I'd give you a quick insight. I'm going to read the back of this one because there's a lot more to it than my memory can probably provide, and I feel like even though, when did I read this? Probably like 3-4 months ago. Although I like remember the basics, I mainly remember the spoiler bits, and I don't obviously want to spoil anything. So It says 10 years ago, the kingdom of Jasad burned. Its magic was outlawed, its royal family murdered. At least that's what Sylvia wants people to believe. The heir of Jasad escaped the massacre and she intends to stay hidden, especially from the armies of Nazil, which continue to hunt her people. But a moment of anger changes everything. When Aaron, the Nazil heir, tracks a group of Jasadi rebels to her village, Sylvia accidentally reveals her magic and captures his attention. Now Sylvia is forced to make a deal with her greatest enemy. Help him hunt the rebels in exchange for her life. A deadly game begins. Sylvia can't let Aaron discover her identity, even as hatred shifts into something more between the heirs. As the tides change around her, Sylvia will have to choose between the life she wants and the life she wants abandoned. I'm officially obsessed. Sorry if the lighting has now changed because I actually had to pause this filming because my battery is about to die. So, we are now back, but that is the Jasad Heir. I feel like it's such a good book, especially if you like yearning and tension. There is yearning throughout the whole of this book, and I'm very excited to read the next one because I feel like if it was anything like this, it's also going to be one of my top reads of 2026. So, now that we've done all the good books, we're now going to go on to the ones that weren't quite great. I feel like I don't want to say awful, but yeah, not bad. Not bad? Not good. That's what we're trying to say. So, the first one I've got is The Bali Bucket List. I actually received an ARC for this, when was this? Like a few months ago. And you're basically following a girl who I believe has gone through a breakup and she decides to go to Bali and be this whole other character and do all these things that she's always wanted to do while she's over there and kind of find herself. And the whole premise of the book sounded really intriguing and promising. And then when I read it, it just, I don't know, the main character kind of was a little bit insufferable for me. I didn't really bond with her. I feel like a lot of the stuff she was doing and the way she was acting just kind of grated on me. And I thought it would be like a fun, random summer read, but it just was this like smutty book, which, by the way, nothing against smart, love a bit of smart, but it just felt like that was the whole plot, and I prefer it if it's here and there. Like, I prefer yearning, tension, that kind of thing, whereas that was like the complete opposite, and it just really didn't hook me, and I didn't enjoy it very much. So that's one I wouldn't be recommending, to be honest. But next we have, well, we actually have two by Freida McFadden, so I'm going to do them both together. The first one is The Doe. Next we actually have two Freida McFadden books, which isn't great, but the first one is The Divorce, which I believe is her most recent release. And if you're unsure what that book is about, I'm just going to quickly read you the synopsis. It says, Naomi was living the quintessential love story. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, get married, buy a dream house, start a family. Then he kicks her out, hires the city's best divorce lawyers, drains their accounts, and takes up a 20-something. It's a brutal end to a love story. Naomi should accept defeat, move into a dingy apartment, get back into the workforce and piece together the shattered remains of her life. Except why should she? Instead, Naomi fixates on her husband's new girlfriend, which begins a cynical curiosity soon twists into obsession. And then it's something far darker. As Naomi uncovers secrets she never imagined, she realises her own life may be in danger. But if it keeps her perfect family intact, isn't it worth it? So yeah, you're following Naomi, and I'm sorry, Naomi was one of the most, bless her, most insufferable female leads I've read about in a while, and I also feel like she was very, very naive. Like, I just didn't quite understand how you could be so naive, and a lot of the things that her husband was doing, well, ex-husband now, but like a lot of things he was doing, it was in plain sight, it was very obvious, but she was always kind of like, oh, you know, he's told me not to worry about it, so I'm not going to worry about it. And it's like, girl, staring you point blank in the face, you should be worried, you should be doing something to help yourself. And then she would help herself, but then her husband would say one thing to her and she'd be like, oh yeah, no, I need to believe this. And half the book she wants to stay with him and try to get him back. And I was like, this man is trash, this man is horrible, he's put you through hell and you're there like, I need him, like I can't do, no, sorry, that is not my kind of book. That just really irritated me. I feel like it just made her very weak, so yeah, that one for me just really didn't hit. And I will say, obviously there's another Freida book in here, and that is again one of her recent releases, and that is Dear Debbie. I feel like I'm reading a lot of mixed reviews on this one. Personally, I thought it was extremely boring. I just didn't think it was good or entertaining or gripping at all. So if you're unsure what that one is about, Sometimes enough is enough. Debbie Mullen is losing it. For years she has complied with all her best advice into her column Dear Debbie, where the wives of New England come for sympathy and neighbourly advice. Through her work, Debbie has heard from countless women who are ignored, belittled, or even abused by their husbands, and Debbie does her best to guide them in the right direction, or at least she did. These days, Debbie's life seems to be spiralling out of control. She just lost her job, something strange is happening with her teenage daughters, and her husband is keeping secrets, according to the tracking app she installed on his phone. Now, Debbie's been done being the bigger person, she's done being reasonable and practical, it's time to take her own advice, and now it's time for payback against all the people in her life who deserve it the most. So, yeah, I feel like Debbie was just, again, it annoys me because I'm like, why are we making insufferable female main characters? I will say the men aren't great either. Like, it's not a case of, oh, like, there's a good character in that. The men aren't great either. She was just, I don't know, she was just not a great point of view. I feel like there were certain parts when she was a bit entertaining and I thought, okay, maybe it's gonna grip me, but honestly, like, this is a thriller, guys. It's a thriller. Why were there no twists? Why were any of the twists just like so plainly obvious anyone could have guessed it, like a child could have guessed it? I feel like it's a hard one with Frida because I loved like a lot of her older work, and I do still read her quite often, even though I'm saying 2 out of the 5 books of the ones I've read of hers obviously aren't great. Like, older ones of hers I still love, and I always say, like, Never Lie, The Housemaid, those 2 books are like incredible. I really liked them, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if she just lost her way a bit, but yeah. But I do still continue to read them, so that is on me, because I do like a fast-paced, quick thriller, and I will say I could read a Frida book in like 3 hours because it is extremely short chapters, it's fast-paced, it's very easy to like just get straight into the story. But unfortunately those 2, I just didn't enjoy the story at all. So I'm not going to say too much on that because I feel like I could go down a rabbit hole on the Frida books I haven't liked, but that aside, let's go on to the next one. And the next one is one I feel like everyone raves about on TikTok, and I was actually really excited to read it, and then I realised this book is literally has like 0 point in the nicest way. So this one is Ask for Andrea by Noelle W. I. Haley? I don't know, I'll be putting it on the screen so you can see, but you've probably heard of it. Again, another thriller. This one, it says Megan Brescia and Sky have just one thing in common. They were all murdered by the same man. He hunted them online, masquerading as an eligible bachelor. Then he played the most perfect gentleman, a thick layer of charm and a 1,000-watt smile, hiding the fact that his first dates end in shallow graves. He's gotten away with murder 3 times now. The only thing that keeps him from killing again, the woman he murdered. Megan, Brescia and Sky might be dead, but they're not gone. They found each other and they won't rest until they find a way to stop him. The haunt is on. So this sounded really intriguing. I was like, okay, it's a little bit supernatural, it's a thriller, you know, they're going to get their revenge arc, it's going to be really intriguing. In the nicest way, that was probably one of the boringest books I've ever read in my life. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, I can say that, because I was so bored. Like, the start of the book I'm thinking, okay, we're jumping point of views. I also found it quite hard to figure out like whose point of view was whose, because I felt like they were distinct but they weren't hugely distinct, and then you're also following someone in present day who is dating him, and I'm thinking, okay, we're getting a lot of this backstory, getting a lot of their point of views, it's obviously going to build up to something. It didn't. Like, the book felt like it ended midpoint. Like, it just felt like we read all this stuff, we figured out how bad he is, we saw him doing these horrible things, and then it just finished, and nothing really was like, it kind of got resolved but it didn't. And I feel like I wanted all of these ghosts women to like come down and really, you know, get this guy and do all these things, and it's going to be creepy and supernatural and like thrillery and exciting. It was a snooze fest. It was an absolute snooze fest. So that is one, when anyone asks me about that one, I'm like, ooh. And I will say there's friends of mine that have read it since and they agreed. They were like, oh, it starts off quite interesting, it starts off quite a strong premise, and then it just goes like this. So yeah, and I feel like I was just massively misled with that one online. So if any of you are thinking about reading that one, maybe think again, because that was just like one of the most disappointing books I've ever read. And then last but not least, we have The Sleepwalkers by Scarlett Thomas. This is one, again, I think I saw online a few people, I didn't actually really see any reviews, but I saw a few people talking about reading it, and it sounded really intriguing. It's basically following a couple who go abroad to a Greek island, and the hotel where they're staying at has been like labelled because basically it was like this famous case back in the day called the Sleepwalkers, where this other married couple ended up both going into the sea and dying like randomly through their vacation. So they end up going there, and just loads of weird stuff happened. You're also finding like different pieces of like memorabilia, I guess you'd say. Like the wife finds loads of random things from the Sleepwalkers and like things that just don't add up. So I'm thinking, okay, it's a bit of a mystery. We're going to figure out what happened to the Sleepwalkers, and is the same thing going to happen to them? Also, their marriage was just like not good at all. Like, I did not like them two as a couple. I feel like they were really bizarre. They just didn't work. I wasn't involved, like I didn't feel their marriage, if that makes sense. So from the start it wasn't great. Also, what did I write in my review? I did write, I think this is the messiest book I've ever written, and I don't mean that positively. It was a, I'm shocked this has been published messy, and I said sorry but absolutely not. I feel like we just started throwing random things in there that made absolutely no sense. Suddenly it was about grooming, then about rape, then about trafficking, but it also wasn't about any of that at the same time. And I stand by that, because yeah, 1 minute you're like, okay, we're looking into grooming and trafficking, and then the next thing it's completely different, and then it's something else, and then something else, and then it never really was anything about anything like that in at all. Like, it just didn't make sense in my brain. Also, 8% in, I already hate the husband, and I'm not fond of the wife either. And then I put at 39%, this is the most toxic marriage ever. I kind of hope they both don't survive. That was true. And then you also found out that he proposed to her while she was giving him a blowjob. Like, where does that, why have we got that? Why is that something that happened? That just further proves that they are not a good couple. That, like, not I feel bad saying that. Not that they're not a good couple, because, you know, each their own, but like, why was that a thing? Why did that come up? Why was that, I don't know, it just felt so wishy-washy. It literally just felt like someone had sat down at their laptop and gone written like 5 different ideas into one thing, never concluded really any of them, I don't believe, and was just like, done, the end. And then it got published, and I'm like, how did we get there? How did we get there? Not to be rude, but I really didn't understand that one. That's probably that is probably like the worst book I've ever read this year. Or ever, really, to be honest. It's up there with one of my least favourite and worst books I've ever read. And that says a lot, because I normally am quite good at reading what I like. I also just realised pretty much all of those books were thrillers. So maybe I'm quite a harsh thriller judge. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't really read the genre as much, so I don't know exactly what I'm getting into before, and then I'm like, this is not my vibe at all. Who knows? But all of that being said, those are my top 5 books of the year and my least favourite 5 books of the year. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of them, or if, you know, you don't. If you disagree with me, if you agree with me. I love hearing other people's opinions. Obviously, reading is subjective, so if you loved any of the ones that I didn't like, I love that for you. I wish I could have had the same experience, but, you know, everyone has a different taste, so it is what it is. But thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you again in the next one.